More than a couple, 3 days before we left, that Tessa calls me and said, man, I have to leave on Sunday because I start my new job on Monday. So we did the trip, and then we had to get her out because she had to go to Washington, D.C. She now works for Shannon Breen, the Fox lady, the Fox Supreme Court lady. She is like her right-hand person, runs her life. This is the quality that this young lady was. But those two young ladies, when we started in Jacksonville, Florida, it was so funny. The first interview, they walk up and like, um, we'd like to ask you some questions, and it's so scared. They were just scared. I was like, oh, this could be so bad. The second day, the first day, the second day, oh my goodness. It was so amazing to see the transformation that had taken place in these young ladies. So if you get a chance to watch that documentary, I think you'll be blessed. This is one of the young men just going up, people on the park. Lebanon, Ohio. We finished up in Lebanon, Ohio. And we just get out and started talking to people. In Lawrenceville, Georgia, right? We had gone out, we took a group out, we went to a park, and everybody had gone out and they'd done their thing, and we'd finished up. And so we'd come back and then we'd pray and debrief, encourage everybody. And as we were wrapping up, my film guy calls me, he says, Carl, come here. Yeah. He says, these two people, they want to know what we're doing here. And he's busy trying to pack everything up so that we can leave, right? Because, it was a crazy schedule. So I go over with these two folks, explain what we're doing, what the bus is there, what we're doing, and I do a simple presentation of the gospel. It's a really good one if you guys ever want to do it. This is when God created us. We were perfect, everything. Then you put something, that's sin, covered it up. It's a really simple presentation, and it just makes it simple, right? So I go through that whole thing, and then it's like, they both received the Lord. Just boom, right there. And so that's these two. And it was like, I needed this. Oh, I needed this. I'm going to be in church next week. I needed it. That's just what happened, just with simple conversations. And like I said, I was the guy trying to stay out of the back, staying out of light and let these young folks do it, but every one of us had these opportunities. So this is the website that I told you about. Somebody was getdebunked.com, D-E-B-U-S, debus, okay, just in case, D-E-B-U-S, and that'll have that in there, all right? Okay, you got it? If you need it, just get with me again. So this time, we're going to finish up. I might only get like halfway through this talk, and we'll come back and I'll finish it up in the second half, sort of a thing, just so that you guys, because you're going to have to go somewhere to get lunch, right? Everybody's going to have to go somewhere, so I'll be respectful of that time. We'll fit it all in. I got a little wound up on the first session, sorry. You can get something from nothing, and I say we debunk that claim. I think we need to debunk it big time. There's a museum out in Colorado that I thought was really, really interesting. It's a secular museum, but they had a sign in there that hit me. Science without physical evidence is opinion, and opinion is not science, even if it's the opinion of a scientist. Let me read this again, because this is very important. This sets the framework for where we're going. Science without physical evidence is opinion, and opinion is not science, even if it's the opinion of a scientist. Now hang on to that, because that's very important. That's going to set the framework for how we deal with this topic of getting something from nothing. Hebrews 11:3 says this, through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God. Oh, but hold up, Carl. See, right there, you've already lost me. Here's what the non-Christian is going to say. See, faith. All you Christians have is faith. You guys just have blind faith. You just have to have faith. And what is faith? Well, let's go to Bertrand Russell, and he tells us that faith is a firm belief in something for which there is no evidence. Is that biblical faith? But we have a church, many times, that can't articulate what is biblical faith. How is it not that? Well, I got a short video for you. Let me share it with you, please.
People take this.
All right, I'm going to start it again. There you go.
Faith, the final frontier. These are the voyages. No, it's ridiculous, although that's where most people take this topic, to science fiction. Faith. What is it really? A magic feeling that we get to help us through tough times? A mystical bridge between fact and fiction? Is it really blind? Is it a word we use when we can't explain ourselves? Is it real on any level? Let's investigate. Hypothetical. A person says to you, I sure do wish I could believe in millibuggins like you do, I just don't have that kind of faith. Well, What that person is really saying is that millibuggins aren't real, and you are the type of person who believes in unreal things, and it takes this strange faith thing that not many other people have for you to get there. Okay, in the nicest way possible then, this person is calling you insane, or at best just a little nutty. So you have this odd capability of believing in something you desperately wish to be true, but you just can't be sure if it is. However, since it makes you feel better, it's worth it. For you. Well, that pretty much sums up what faith means to most people. In other words, the stronger your faith, the more ridiculous the belief must be, because after all, a little faith helps you believe in things that probably aren't true, so then a really powerful faith will be the kind of faith you absolutely know something isn't true, but you still believe it anyway. Thus, faith is reduced to some blind anecdotal act that magically suspends disbelief of reality in order to make you feel better. But you gotta wonder, is this really the kind of faith the Bible talks about? Let's look at the word again, okay? Let's refocus. The Bible refers to faith really in only one way. It's like this. Suppose I say, I have faith that my friend will repay me the $10 he owes me on Saturday because he said he would. See, there's nothing strange about that faith, and nobody would fault me for having it if they knew my friend. Because what I'm saying essentially are three things. One, my friend is real. Two, he's trustworthy. And three, which is really a subset of two, I believe one and two because I have a relationship with my friend. Now, for just a second, let's get morbid to make a critical illustration. What if my friend died on the way to give me my $10 back? He didn't come through. No matter how much faith I had in him, how real and completely trustworthy he may have been, he didn't have the power to live up to my faith. Was he really any less trustworthy or any less real? No. But the person or object on which I place my faith is an essential part of how strong my faith should be. I mean, how much faith do you have that your 2-year-old basset hound can drive your new Lexus to the bank and bring you back $1,000 in 20s? None, I hope. But now, turn that analogy of my friend and your dog toward God, who is all-powerful, all-knowing, eternal, and incapable of lying, and ask yourself this. On whom does it make the most sense to place your greatest faith? Well, I'll tell you. Anyone who has a right relationship with God, and quite honestly, anyone who doesn't, knows he is the only one capable of doing everything he says, the only one with the knowledge of the future, the only one who understands everything, the only one who really knows you, and the only one who has revealed through nature and his word who he is and what he's done, how much he loves you, and why he is the only completely trustworthy one there is. Got it? Good. In summary, then, faith in God is always a response to truth and reality and has nothing to do with blind leaps. The U.S. Trust me.
So biblical faith is based in something that I've seen this happen, I've seen this happen, I've seen this happen, so therefore it is not blind. It is not based on just, oh, no, that is not biblical faith. So fill in the blank here so I can know what I'm dealing with. In the beginning, really, God. You know there's two ways of answering that question. In the beginning, God, or in the beginning, yeah, we've already done this. We've already done this. So it's the battle between God and gas, right? Here it is, battle of the ages. Little battle lines are drawn. Get ready, right? Well, if somebody created your God, then who created your, right? We've already done this debunk video, so I won't do it for you. But remember, you can use this thing free of charge. I want you to have them. So what's the truth? Is this really a battle between God and gas? And the answer is no, it's not. Ultimately, it's a battle between God versus nothing. And you might think I'm joking with you here, but I am not. Let me take you to the smart guys. Alexander Villikin, this is what he says.
There is one answer that appears to avoid this problem. The idea is that the universe could be spontaneously created out of nothing.
So there you go. That's what happened. The universe was spontaneously created out of nothing. And if you think he's the lone stranger in this belief, he's not. Let me take you to another guy, and Peter Atkins, and here's what he has to say.
And it may be that our universe happens to be that happy chance of nothing transforming itself into what seems to be something that seems to persist.
Battle lines are drawn, okay? It may be that our universe happens to be that happy chance of nothing transforming itself into what seems to be something. So here it is, battle of the ages, God versus nothing. How do we deal with this thing? By the way, mature folks that are here today, adults, you will probably notice something that I do, okay? One of the things that I do is I always try to use secular sources. I always try to take secular sources, and I always try to let them talk. So I don't want to, those are just snippets. That's kind of like cherry picking. And so you don't know what he said before that. You didn't know what he said after that. So maybe I'm taking him out of context, and that would be one of the attacks that somebody would use against what I'm doing here. And so that's hard. I can't show you everything. So what I'm going to do now, though, is I want to transition over, and we're going to let them talk, all right? We're going to take and just watch but stop and critically evaluate. And so I always try to use secular sources. I don't use very many creationist sources in my talks when I'm dealing with these types of things. I want to let the people talk. I don't want to. This is what they say. I want to let them talk. But the one thing we have to do is we have to define nothing, because what is nothing? Maybe I don't understand. You know, it's God versus nothing. So what is nothing? I already gave you one definition in the first talk. You heard it. Aristotle. How did Aristotle define nothing? Anybody remember? Didn't catch it in the first debunked video? Aristotle defined nothing as what rocks dream about. But now, Aristotle didn't have a PhD. So I want to bring a PhD in. I want to get a PhD astrophysicist to tell me, so that I want to use words correctly. Son of a professional wrestler, I could be messed up, right? Well, I am messed up. But what is nothing? Let's let a PhD astrophysicist define nothing for us.
Floyd doesn't believe he can actually get his taxes done for nothing. So we brought in Dr. Michio Kaku to explain exactly what we mean by nothing.
Nothing is the absence of something. Zero is absolutely nothing.
So it costs nothing.
Well, it costs you zero, which is nothing.
Nothing. Right.
Carl, why would you use these kind of commercials? I think they're funny. But also, this is what the world sees, right? This is what they see. They see these things on TV and everything, so why not use something that they're comfortable with? And then let me show you how silly this really is, right? So it's just a way of connecting and getting, look, I don't try to convict or convert. I told you all this. My job is to converse and challenge people to think. If we can walk away from a conversation and people are thinking, mission accomplished. Because the Holy Spirit's going to do all the convicting and converting. We just put it out. Watch what he does with it. By the way, it doesn't take a genius to do your taxes. I'm going to be blunt with you. It doesn't take a genius to figure out you can't get something from nothing. But let's address it, all right? Nothing, we now have our definition from the PhD. Nothing is the absence of something. So now we're going to the experts, Richard Dawkins and Lawrence Krauss. Richard Dawkins, why would I use him? He's still one of the most prominent anti-Christian folks out there. He's kind of disappearing. He's getting older now. But he's written a lot of books, and like The God Delusion. The God Delusion. By the way, that whole book can be summarized with one statement or one question. If God created everything, then who created God? That's the whole book, condensed to one question. So if you deal with that debunked, you can deal with that book, essentially. I mean, it really is. But Richard Dawkins, he's kind of like Gru. You guys know what I'm talking about, Gru? Yeah, he's kind of like Gru. So if Richard Dawkins uses an argument, the minions are using the argument. And Lawrence Krauss, he's a minion. He's never going to grow up to be Gru, but he's a wannabe. But he did write a book called A Universe from Nothing, Why There Is Something Rather Than Nothing. So please use your imagination with me here today. We want to know how you get something from nothing. We buy it's a brand new book, came out hardback only, $35 for a hardcover book. We spend that money. And then we find out that Richard and Lawrence are coming into town, and they're putting on a talk on how to explain how you get something from nothing. So now we buy the ticket. We buy a $100 ticket to go watch this thing. And now we got to drive across town. You're probably going to eat dinner. Oh, you got to get a babysitter, right? So you're invested in this. Are you with me? This is not like whatever. No, we're invested. We really want to know. Use your imagination. That's where we are. So here we go. We come in to hear Richard and Lawrence explain to us how you can get something from nothing, and now we're going to let them talk. But we will stop, break down what they say, deal with it. Let them talk, stop, break it down, all right? Because what I'm finding that if I were to just play this 2-hour thing for you, you wouldn't stay here, first of all. And second of all, if you did stay here, at the end of it, you'd be like, ooh, what are we going to do with all that? It's overwhelming. I mean, it's just boom, boom. It's overwhelming. It just stop, talk, stop, talk. Here we go.
In the context of evolution, what something from nothing means to you?
Charles Darwin solved one of the greatest riddles that the human mind has ever solved, which is how you get something from nothing, in the sense of how you get the immense complexity and diversity and beauty and elegance of life, and perhaps above all, how you get the powerful illusion of design that life shows, starting not quite from nothing, but starting from extreme simplicity.
Okay. Before we get into this, let's identify a couple things. I want to identify some tools that are used to really kind of like the mic drop moments, right? This is what I see, especially college campuses. They want to shut me down. Here we go. Boom, right? Charles Darwin proved. Boom, walk away. He dropped the Charles Darwin bomb. There's no coming back. Nah, pick the mic up. The laws of quantum mechanics, the laws of physics, the laws of chemistry, the laws. Most of us in here like, yeah, right. Ooh, they're stating the laws. It must, boom, walk away. No, don't walk away. Oh, virtual particles. Quantum. Get out of here, man. Don't get overwhelmed with that stuff. Keep it simple. That's what we're going to do. This is what he said. Now, I'm going to hold him accountable. You hold me accountable. He said this very clearly. Charles Darwin solved how you get something from nothing. Now, we got a number of young folks in here, so I really want to challenge them today because since I'm going to do this in 2 parts anyway, let's break this down. Young folks, how many of you have ever studied what Charles Darwin teaches in school? In school, you've had to, what did Charles Darwin discover? What did he prove? Come on, young folks. What's that? What about a butterfly? Oh, you're talking about the peppered moths. Peppered moths wasn't Darwin. No, don't laugh at him. No, don't laugh at him. Peppered moths is one of the major evidences used to prove evolution, but that wasn't Darwin. Darwin was something else, something very specific. And it wasn't the peppered moths, it was the finches. Remember the finches? Yeah, the finches. Some finches had big beaks, some had little beaks, okay? And so this was the thing that he is famous for. Take a look, man. They had, you had an island that had finches and they had big beaks and little beaks. And what happened? Well, when the drought came, it didn't get the rain, the tender plants didn't survive. So they would decrease in numbers. When you first started in the normal season, you had an equal number of birds with big beaks and little beaks. Drought comes, the tender plants disappear, the little beak birds, they can't survive as well, so what happened to them? They died off. There's not as many of them. There's more of the big beak birds. Well, what happens? The rains come back. Oh, what happens? Well, the rains come back, the plants come back, you get an explosion in the population of the little beak birds, and so it goes rotating back and forth. His other thing was the turtles, the tortoises, the Galapagos tortoises. Some have a curvature on the front of their carapace because they're eating plants up high because there's not a lot of food down on the ground. And some are flat on the front because they're eating stuff from the bottom of the ground. Those are the 2 things. Those were the 2 things that he was most famous for. That's the mechanism that supposedly proved that evolution happened. Please explain to me then, how did Charles Darwin prove that you can get something from nothing? What does this show? Does this show getting something from nothing? You started with birds. You end up with birds. You got different, varying populations of those birds, but guys, that's all it was. Normal season, dry season, you got fluctuations of populations. Turtles, you got variety of shell size shape. That has nothing to do with getting something from nothing. We have to teach this generation how to think. So when they throw this at you, and he wrote the afterword, Richard Dawkins wrote the afterword for Lawrence Krauss's book, okay? A Universe from Nothing. Charles Darwin proved it. How? Oh, you're closed-minded, you're intolerant. You know what's closed-minded and intolerant is not questioning. You guys are going to be questioning me. And you should be. You should be questioning Pastor Rookman. You should be. You should be taking what is being taught, I don't care who the teacher is, and taking it to the Scripture to see what is being said, if it lines up with Scripture. We have to do that. Charles Darwin showed how you get something from nothing? No, he didn't. He just showed that when you started with birds, you can get different varieties of birds. That's it. And by the way, do you know the difference in the beak size is less than a millimeter? Less than a millimeter. As a matter of fact, one guy said, the only person that can see the difference between these beak sizes is the guy that lives on the island and is still taking all these measurements, right? Less than a millimeter. Guys, it's smaller than a pencil. Non-Christian quote here. Check it out. The theory of evolution deals with changes in populations. Excuse me. How do you get something from nothing? Deals with changes in populations. Populations are something. He continues on. It says that given a starting population, changes will occur. Do I, as a Christian, as a creationist, agree with that? Yeah. God said he started with one man and one woman. Look at all the different people that we got today. God said he created the different kinds of animals. Dogs, all the different dogs that we see today go back within the last 200 years. 85% of the dogs that we see today go back within the last 200 years. There's a big variety of dogs, big variety of cats, big variety of cows. And guess what? They're still dogs, they're still cats, they're still cows. Even though there's variety. That's because we have a God that knew that we were going to destroy what he gave, and he created us with the ability to be able to adapt and survive in a given environment. I agree with that. It has nothing to do with getting something from nothing. That starting population is an objective fact. We can see it in the fossil record. You better believe it, and the fossil record shows very clearly that something didn't come from nothing, but that's another talk. Powerful illusion of design that life shows. Why would he say that? Why would he say the illusion of design? Have you ever heard the old saying that the devil is in the detail? Anybody? Anybody? That is not true. God is in the detail. You take anything that man made, look at it under an electron microscope, it looks like junk. You take anything that God made, look at it under an electron microscope, and the further down you get, the more amazing it is. This is a shark skin. Speedo's ripping them off. They're trying to build swimsuits with this mechanism right here so that people can swim with less resistance. It is absolutely designed. This, snowflake. But our God, he's not so boring that he only makes one kind of snowflake. He makes all kind of different snowflakes. The reason that you and I can breathe right now is because of that thing right there. You need a microscope to see it. It's called a diatom, and this is just one of them. When you look at the diatoms under the microscope, they are amazing. They're beautiful. Look at a butterfly egg under a microscope. They look like jewels. They're just unbelievably beautiful. You suffer from hay fever because of that thing right there. The further you get down on God's creation, the more amazing it is. Let's take an unused needle. That's an unused needle. You want to see one after it's been used 6 times? No, you don't. I've got the pictures of it. You'll never want to get another shot. The closer you get to anything that man made, looks like junk. Anything that God made, amazing. So it appears like there's design. No, there is design. And that's why he has to say it's an appearance of, no. And it started not quite from nothing. Did you catch that? Hello? Did I lose you already? We paid $100 to come hear him. We bought the book. We paid the babysitter. I want to hear how you got something from nothing. And your opening statement says it started not quite from nothing. What? What was the title of the book? A Universe from Not Quite Nothing? No. Hold up. But started from extreme simplicity. Okay, here's what I do with young people, especially in the camp setting. I won't do it to y'all because it can get kind of boring, but I won't. Well, I'll do it. Can somebody please give me an example of extreme simplicity? And you can't use me as an example, okay? Extreme simplicity. Come on. The wind. Somebody. Come on. What? A water drop. Extreme simplicity. Come on. A rock. Y'all are killing me, man. Come on now. Well, we'll stop there. You know why? Because I don't care what you say. Whatever you say is something. And you're supposed to explain to us how you get a universe from nothing. Whatever example you come up with. People have said molecules. Are you kidding me? Look at a molecule. Water drop? Are you kidding me? Anything that God made, you go look at it. It's crazy, right? Anything you come up with is something. Let's keep going.
So, getting something from nothing, Charles Darwin gives us all confidence. Charles Darwin showed that what must have seemed the most difficult problem of getting something from nothing was soluble. He solved it, and his successors have been simply fleshing out his explanation ever since. But after Darwin, it's no longer possible for anybody, any reasonable person, to say, oh, I simply can't believe you could get something so complicated as that.
Okay, let's break them down. This is what he said. Darwin showed it was possible to get something from nothing. Did he? No, he did not. Absolutely not. You're not reasonable if you don't believe you can get something from nothing. Again, I say, what is not reasonable is for you to tell me that it came from something and then expect me to accept the fact that it came from nothing. That's what's not reasonable. But we live in a world, parents, hear me on this. I think that most parents don't have a clue what's really taking place in the colleges. Kids are being shut down in the universities. There literally are professors that are begging to get the Christian kids in their class so they can destroy them. Calvary Chapel, Boca Raton, Florida. I spoke big youth, about 400 or 500 kids. And afterwards, a line of kids came up to talk to me, right? Number 3 kid, young man, came up to me and said, I go to Florida Atlantic University. It's like 10 minutes from Boca, Calvary Chapel, Boca. He said, day one, psychology professor handed out index cards, because that's what I typically do when I do camps with kids. I hand out index cards on day one, write down the questions that are keeping you from selling out, turn them in, because that's what we'll deal with the rest of the time that I'm in. I'm not here with any other agenda than to deal with what's keeping you from selling out. That's what I want to go after. So bring it. And so he comes up, yeah, my psychology professor, day one, hands out index cards. Cool. No. He said, write Jesus on it, stand up, put it on the ground, step on it, because the rest of this class, we're going to destroy the greatest myth that's ever been perpetuated on this planet. Same school, English professor, about a quarter of the way into the class one time, but quarter of the way through the semester, English professor shuts his book, walks around, sits on the front of his desk, folds his arms, says, all right, everybody, shut your books, we're going to talk. He said, look, I'm rich. I don't need this job. I'm here for one reason only, to destroy Christianity. Guys, I can tell you stories. Taylor University can tell you stories. Auburn University, I can tell you stories. Satan doesn't play fair. He's coming after this generation. And these knuckleheads are coming after him big time. You're not reasonable if you don't believe you can get something from nothing. Well, guess what? We've got to teach a generation to not be intimidated by this stuff. Let's keep going.
But I think you're not being fair to Darwin. I think in a sense it's something from nothing. I mean, completely nothing. In the sense that every time take humans, we weren't around perhaps more than maybe 5 to 10 million years ago. And so in a sense, every time a new species is created, it's something from nothing.
Okay. Do I have a young person who's willing to come up here with me and let me challenge him? You've been the most vocal, brother. Come on up. Good. Good. What's your name? Blake. Very kind of you to come up. Mr. Blake, use your imagination. You in college? High school? College, okay? Day one, my biology class. All right? And you come into my class, and I'm like, here we go. Blake, what is it that you don't understand? It's very easy to show how you get something from nothing. 5 to 10 million years ago, there were no humans. Now we have humans. That's clearly an example of how you get something from nothing. What's wrong with you? Why can't you understand that? Doesn't matter. You have no humans. Now you have humans. That's something from nothing. What's wrong with that? It doesn't matter what you believe. The science shows very clearly, we go back in the fossil record, no humans. Now we have humans. Hello? God, there is no evidence for God. There's no evidence for that type of thing. Don't bring that stuff in my classroom. No humans, perfect example of how you get something from nothing.
This is why I'm here.
Thank you. I am not doing that to make fun of anybody. You hear me? This is happening for real. This is happening for real. And your first response was the one that was in the right direction. It was in the right direction. You let me push you in a different direction. And this is one of the things we have to learn is how these guys will do this. They'll manipulate, push, sort of a thing. What was his first response? No. No, that was the second response, third response. First response was, what was before humans? If you know what's before humans from their perspective, you're golden. That's the way that you answer the question. I don't need to use God. I don't need to use the Bible to start it off. According to the theory of evolution, boom. Let me watch. I'll finish with this one, then we'll come back, okay? I'll finish with this response with, you're not being fair to Darwin. It's something from nothing. Completely nothing. There were no humans, now there's humans. So it's absolutely something from nothing. 5 to 10 million years ago, no humans, now we got humans. Watch what Richard Dawkins says. Because I would say this to you, but I'm the Christian, whatever, right? Richard Dawkins and us, we're on the same page. Whoops, hit that wrong button again. Let's go down, boom.
Well, it's not from nothing because it's from an antecedent species, and even the evolutionary process, the process that Darwin discovered, didn't start from nothing. It had to start from, well, a reasonably complicated chemical beginning, which was the first self-replicating molecule. You can't, I mean, natural selection can't get going until you have genetics, and so you've got to have genetics. And that's not a trivial problem, and it's a problem that actually hasn't yet been solved.
So you see how you were headed in the right direction, that very first response, if you'd have kept going down that road. I've only got 2 of these because I ran out of them, but I've got 2 DVDs over there, and again, it's all donation. I asked for donation. I'm not trying to be a salesperson. If it helps you, please grab it. But there's a DVD over there called Answering Skeptics, Richard Dawkins, and it's a different talk than this one. And what I do is I go through, and there's another one called What About Human Evolution? There's only 2 ancestors in that What About Human Evolution, but the Richard Dawkins one goes through various species of Australopithecine, Australopithecus afarensis, Homo ergaster, Homo. When you know their specific supposed ancestors, and you can use that, it's like, hold up, according to the theory of evolution, you had Lucy, which was Australopithecus afarensis, supposedly turned into Homo habilis, which supposedly turned into Homo erectus, which hold up. That's not something from nothing. You've got all those antecedent species. He uses a big word. You've got all those ancestors that were there longer. This is not an example of something from nothing. So you were headed in the right direction, but know the specific names. And then you go to God. This is why I believe what I say that I believe, because that's actually consistent with what this one teaches, that God said he created things. We find these things. And by the way, the evidence doesn't support that this thing turned into this thing. It shows that these things were all individual. They never one turned into the other. So when you know the fossil record, you know their stuff, you can answer, and it's like, they're still going to reject you. That's okay. It's not my job to convict or convert. I give an answer for the reason for the hope that lies within me, with meekness and fear. And guess what? It's not the professor I'm trying to convert. I'm trying to show these people sitting around, there's another way. Because that's what they're looking for. So we'll come back and we'll finish up with this session, but I want to finish on time so you guys can grab lunch and all that sort of a thing. And then we can come back and we'll do the rest of this. And I think you'll like it. Okay, I think you'll like it because it gets very interesting. But Pastor Ryan, I'll turn it over to you so you can give instructions.